Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5-Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Hello, Rush Nation, and welcome along. I'm back after a brief hiatus last week. I hope Murph held the fort down okay without me looking at the wide receivers. Was everything okay good last week, Murph?
Yeah, I mean, we missed you a lot, and you did lots of work for the show.
I did.
And I feel bad because I didn't mention any of the picks you put in the sheet. But unfortunately, this is what happens when you leave me unsupervised, Dan. You left me unsupervised with Justin Boone. We spoke for 30 minutes off air before we started. I said to everyone, I put on Twitter, we're starting in 5 minutes, and then 25 minutes later we turned up, and then and then we got talking, got off track. But yeah, no, it was a great show, well worth listening. And as I sort of teased earlier, I think what I'm going to do is put these 4 episodes together and bundle them so everyone has got all the great content. And I'm so excited for tonight's show because it's genuinely one of my favorite people on. And I know I say this when we get certain guests on, but Joe is literally. I talk to Joe probably most weeks, at least a few times a week. So I'm excited that he's on because we don't talk enough on in person, like through a medium of video or audio. So I'm excited.
Yeah, fair. So for those of you who don't know, Joe Dolan has joined us, Fantasy Points co-owner, analyst, and host of the Fantasy Points podcast, and former rankings king at Fantasy Pros. Joe, that's quite a title to live up to.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I pulled a Bill Murray in Space Jam. I retired unbeaten and untied from the Fantasy Pros competition. The track record speaks for itself, though, I guess. But no, I'm glad to be chopping it up with you boys. I think we could have gone for the 30 minutes off air if Facebook wasn't yelling at Murph to get things started anyway. So, but we're here. We were chopping up a little bit about Oasis. Which I don't know. They seem to be in the cultural zeitgeist, or at least people are very nostalgic about Oasis at this point. 25th anniversary of Be Here Now, so everybody's getting all just nostalgic about them. What a time in history that I didn't get to experience like live. Number one, because I didn't live in England. Number two, I was just probably a little too young when Oasis was at their peak to be like. I mean, everybody knew Wonderwall, but like to be a little into it and the Britpop and all that stuff. But Murph and I have been chopping it up about that, shooting about Premier League football, which I don't really understand, but I love it anyway, and Formula One, which I don't really understand, but I love it anyway. And Murph just helps me talk all that stuff.
I was trying to explain to Joe how FPL works the other day, and I sent him the scoring. He's like, "How does someone score 19 points?"
Hold on a minute. When I joined the chat, there was a full-blown discussion going on about iced tea.
Yeah.
Which seemed like it had some legs before I got here.
It's because I was drinking tea. And then Joe was like, "Do you drink tea often?" And then no, and he said he was having iced tea. Because you can tell by Joe, if you're watching this on the video, Joe's got a little sun kiss today. He's been out in the sun with his Clemson hat on.
Yeah, that was I think on Saturday, because I haven't seen myself on camera since then. But on Saturday I mowed the lawn and I didn't put any sunblock on, so I guess that was it. But let me tell you something, guys. If you have a lawn that has hills, you do not need to work out that day. I was dead. Oh man,
a lawn with hills.
Yeah, but it's not big enough to get a riding mower. Like a riding mower would be objectively ridiculous looking at my house. Although I've always wanted one, so I have to do it the old-fashioned way. But oh boy, man, I was dead out there.
Dan solves that problem. He doesn't even need a lawnmower anymore, do you?
Nope. Fake grass, way to go. And I was out there the other day, hard broom, sweeping it all off, all the leaves off it. And I was like, "This is hell. Why am I doing this?" And then I was like, "I still have grass. I have to do this every other week because I have to do it twice a year. I can cope with that." So definitely the way to go.
Anyway, if you've just tuned in, this isn't Gardener's World or some reiteration of it. This is a genuine fantasy football podcast. Jack Humphries been in touch. Hi, Jack. Evening, gents. Thanks for all the great DFS content on the Ross Tucker Show, Joe. So you have a fan in the house. Absolutely, you kill it over there every week. You and Ross, definitely one of my rotational pods. If you haven't checked out the Fantasy Feast podcast, go check that out, as well as everything at Fantasy Points. What is new at Fantasy Points, Joe? You got a lot of stuff going on.
Well, yeah,
right now.
So I started doing a little morning show on YouTube on Tuesday through Friday. Just a little, I call it the daily lineup, and it follows like a traditional fantasy lineup: a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, and a flex. And I just break down some news every day, 10 to 15 minutes, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Good afternoon for you guys with your afternoon cuppa. But that's perfect for you guys. And I'm doing that every Tuesday through Friday. I'm going to do that every Tuesday through Friday throughout the NFL season. Then I think that'll be a nice little thing. And we are in the process of getting our data package live on the site with our native charting team. We really wanted that to be fantasy focused, and we have not unveiled that as of yet. We're not selling it as of yet. We just want to make sure everything is good to go before that happens. But we have a charter. Those guys have gone back and have charted every play of the 2021 season to give us, a little bit of background. And then we're going to keep doing that going forward. So that's what's going on at Fantasy Points. And we're excited about it. We're excited about what kind of feels like the first normal year, because obviously we launched in 2020. It's a little dicey there. Last year, I think COVID was still, I got to be honest, was more prominent than I think most of us anticipated during the season. And this year it feels like, while COVID's still around, it feels like it's going to be something. Obviously, Murph, you and I know it's still around. But it feels like it's something that's going to be more on the back burner. Really just excited to get into the groove here with the site.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Joe, because I was on a call with Buck CEO Brian Ford a few weeks ago. And I actually asked the question around COVID protocols, and the Buccaneers have, and appreciates Florida, and it's a bit
in
weird.
Florida, COVID don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. It's always a bit weird, but the mentality of the Buccaneers front office is COVID is not a thing. It's done. Yeah. It's in the past. We have no protocols. They've done some flexible working, so people are working at home, and if you're sick, don't come in. That's it. That is their policy. There's some public masking in a couple of areas, and some of the things are at the team where they're going to reduce people who don't need to be around the team, won't be around the team kind of thing. But we're talking about very, very minimal stuff. Like to the Buccaneers and Florida, this is done. COVID is not a thing.
If you have symptoms, test, and
that's
even that.
It's literally, if you don't feel great, stay away. That's it.
That's a good thing for life in general, though. Now, isn't
it?
Yeah,
pretty much, right?
You know what? I'm going to call this out. I don't know, Murph. You went to school over here. For how long? You went to high school here.
I did 3 years of high school, and let's say 3 years of university. Whether I did them all in the right order and whether I did them all correctly.
Well, Dan, sorry if you don't know the American schooling system, and it might be the same way over there. But at the end of the school year in my schools, they always handed out a medal to those students who had perfect attendance. So these kids are coming and they're like plague rats in the 4th grade classroom, and they're getting everybody else sick, and they're getting perfect attendance awards. BS.
Yeah. Okay.
Get rid of it. Sick of it.
We used to get certificates. Unfortunately, there's something I talked about a while ago, and I don't think I talked about it on here, but I talked about it with someone very recently, actually. That in my high school in Florida, first of all, it's an August to May thing. So you got the whole summer off because it's too hot to go to school. But second of all, they had this great thing where they mark your attendance by period in high school. And you were allowed 9 absences per half year before they called your parents. So all I did is I kept a book in my locker. And my school was directly opposite Universal Studios. And I mean, when I say opposite, I mean literally over the road from Universal Studios. So when I was I don't want to go to trigonometry, I just bunked and just went. I just went and did, and then it was trig was right before lunch. So literally, I could just walk off the campus, go for 90 minutes, go to Universal, have a little chill, and come back and do 5th period.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. High school was great. You guys have such a lax system. It's great. But yeah, the perfect tennis award. I'm with you.
Get rid of it. Tired of
Yeah,
it.
just work from home. Just work from home. Just that's what we got to do. In terms of camp hype, is there anything you want to mention with the games that have gone this week? Camp hype. Are you on some of these camp hype trains? Are you trying? Or should we distill some myths now on players like
if he doesn't open
Isaiah
up Brady's back,
like Isaiah Likely and all these other.
Oh, we'll talk about Likely later because let's not blow the tight end conversation now because we need to save it. But you know, I've honestly kind of felt like, and maybe I'm just like separating the signal from the noise way better this year, but I've honestly felt like the camp reports that are like overly positive or overly negative almost feel like in a way more real this year than in the past. Oh, this guy, I hate the phrase, oh, he's turning heads. I hate that. But like the things that like the Romeo Doubs stuff is substantial to me. Okay. Like they need receivers, you know. Yeah, might he not? By the way, I'm not drafting Romeo Doubs to be in my lineup in week 1 or 2. Okay. Like I understand that. It might take time for him to get on the field. The Damian Pierce stuff, they held him out of a preseason game. That's pretty substantial to me. The Antonio Gibson stuff, literally every piece of news on this guy since March has been negative. Now, if you think he's going in the 9th, 10th round and that's too cheap, that's fine. I mean, whatever, you do you. But like, let's not ignore some of this stuff. So I've honestly felt like the news has been like something I can sink my teeth into. Like there hasn't been so much like BS news that I feel like. So I'm sure some of it's going to be right, some of it's going to be wrong. But I felt like there's like a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about and we'll discuss like maybe on this program has been pretty substantial.
Yeah, I do think that there has been a great nugget since we've been on there from Matt the Floor, who calls Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon running backs 1A and 1A.
Thanks, guys.
So there you go. That's cleared that situation up as what's going on in the Green Bay running back room. So they're 1A and 1A, which means what? They're not going to throw the ball this year.
Oh, I'm glad. I hope they catch passes. They need to catch passes.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm sort of with you. I think the thing that annoys me with camp news, there's two things that annoy me. One, the depth chart fake news, right? That just irritates me. Like no one's falling for the fact that Drake London is the wide receiver 5.
So such BS.
Like no one's falling for that.
By the way,
like,
coaches often don't even do those depth charts. When I was working for the Philadelphia Eagles, okay, let me tell you something, Dan. I was 22 years old and I was right out of college. Guess who put that depth chart on the website?
That'd be you, sir.
Me. Look, get Dolan to do it. Now I got direction from the PR staff. Well, Andy Reid wasn't inputting that depth chart on the website. I'll guarantee you that. Yeah, that's the funniest thing when people overreact to depth charts. I was like, yeah, I put that on the website when I was 22 years old.
And you were not in that meeting room with that whiteboard with it written on either, was you?
Did you at any point change position? So did you put like someone down or up on the depth chart?
Oh no!
Just to see if it
that
would
be his job.
No.
There would be like because the website staff and the PR staff like were separate but like equal, same thing. Like normally it would be, hey, follow the snap counts or don't pay attention to that. Just like it was literally honestly it took like 5 minutes every week. Like it was not a thought process at all. So yeah, that's how seriously you should take official depth charts.
Right.
I do feel like now Joe might do that. I don't think it would be adverse to switching.
Like, oh man, that would be great if I had people in the buildings. Hey, put Ronald Jones at the top of the depth chart, even though he might get cut. So mess with fantasy players a little bit. Yeah.
I tell you, I don't know how I feel if Ronald Jones got cut. There are some people on Twitter that'd be really annoyed if Ronald Jones got cut because he's still got truthers out there, which I think is amazing. But
I mean, Murph, you're a Bucks guy. Dan, you're a Bucks guy. I mean, what do you have to be on to be a Rojo truther? Yeah, Murph, you have to be oot your nut to be a Rojo truther right now.
I mean, I like him in the sense of to a team, where he has a situational role and he has a value to do that role. Like in the Super Bowl season, people forget he had a role that was significant that led to the team winning the Super Bowl. Not down the stretch, but in the games with rotational, with rest, and he carried that backfield. And he's very good near the goal line. He has a role, but for fantasy football, absolutely not.
My problem is with him, it feels like, when you're 6 and you're being coached and they say to you, right, you're going to be a running back. And you go, okay, what do I have to do? We're going to give you the ball and you're going to run with it. He hasn't ever changed that mentality. He still has that mentality. He's never changed and learned the other aspects of the job. He's like, well, no. Someone told me 20 years ago, I've just got to get the ball and run with it. And that's what I'm doing.
Well, that, and, I was very big when the Bucs drafted Rojo. They used a lot of draft capital on him. He had that home run ability. And, this is a classic example of really understanding what you're getting. Because if you follow really good, smart people, year one, he came to camp massively overweight. He came to camp really out of shape, really out of condition. And that didn't impress any of the coaches. And so what happened was you had this classic situation of, well, we've spent the draft capital, so we're going to have to use you. But you're so far off the pace and your professionalism isn't that great that we're kind of in this situation where you're not going to succeed. And at the first chance, we are going to get rid of you, which is why when Tom Brady took one look at Ronald Jones and was like, yeah, you're just not going to be my guy. Like, as soon as a guy comes up, I'm grabbing one. And that's what happened. Because he listen, Rojo, for all intents and purposes, sharpened up in year 2. He showed a bit, but he's never going to be that guy. If you're drafting him in any draft whatsoever, you're drafting him. I don't know why you're drafting him. I just don't. There's no scenario where I understand why. I mean, if you're in the last round and he's fallen to the last round, and you think, well, if CEH gets injured like he normally does, maybe. First. But still, I still don't get it. There
was a lot of people taking him just after that dead zone early in the season and stuff like that.
There was a point where he was like a 9th, 10th round pick, which is not the case anymore. Because of the Pacheco hype, which I hope you got your shares in now because it's getting out of control. But I think the people were like, well, Clyde Edwards-Helaire stinks, so I'm going to draft Rojo, without realizing that he also stinks. So there creates that problem there too. But that is neither here nor there. I'm going to go. Look,
I don't want to rag on Sleeper too much more than I already have this offseason because I'm sure they're going to ban me. I want to talk about Ronald. I know we're supposed to talk about tight end. Ronald Jones' projections. His projections on Sleeper are 700 rushing yards, 127 reception yards, 5 rushing TDs, 1 reception TD. That's not happening.
No.
No one's buying it.
You know why? No. There's a 22-year-old Joe sat behind the scenes going, just stick in some numbers.
Just stick it in there, Sleeper. Someone Sleeper's having a ball. But anyway, we're so off topic. Before we get into tight ends, I'm going to caveat the tight end discussion by saying I think it's fair to say that all three of us are not really tight end truthers in the sense of expending tons of draft capital, but we are going to be very fair, very balanced. And there's tight ends that we all like. So,
hey, Murph, Mark Andrews won me a lot of money last year. I gotta say it. Mark Andrews was my fantasy MVP last year. So let me tip my cap to him.
There we go. So there is value. We're going to talk about the position. We're going to do it a lot of great justice. Before we do that, I've been teasing and promising about Listener League information. If at this point you're watching us on Twitter, I urge you to just open another browser and just go on to YouTube or Facebook because I'm going to chop in the chat and you won't be able to see it on Twitter, which is why I mentioned this, the link to the Listener League sign-up form. And for some reason, it shows up 3, 4, 5 times. I don't know why. Anyway, it's in the chat now. So if you want to sign up to our listener leagues, because, hey, you're listening to the show live on air, then just click that link. If you are listening to this in podcast form and it drops tomorrow morning, tomorrow early afternoon when it drops, the link will be in the show in the podcast notes. You can just click that. So I just wanted to get that out there. Just quick rules on that. There's 10 listener leagues. There's already a few spaces gone for champion staff, Patreons, etc. So there's about 100-ish spots, give or take. We're asking, we're going to give away one per person to start, and then we see how we get on. It's a £5 minimum donation to our charity, CDH UK. That'll be required before you enter the Listener League. So that's just because we want to do our bit and give back. We've raised nearly £3,500, which is about $4,500 already this year. We want to raise even more money. So please do donate. And I'm just making the caveat now, no donation, no entry. Just making it really clear. Prizes, limited edition, 5-Yard Rush winners t-shirt, same as every year, but it's a yearly winners t-shirt. It gets a different design every year, so worth having. And entry into the 2022 Champion of Champions, which is going on right now. And I promise you the format this year is absolutely nuts. I literally cocked this one up somewhere in the lab.
Yeah, I've had people message me going, what do you reckon about this draft? I go, what draft is it? They go, Champion of Champions. I go, I haven't got a clue. I'm not in it. I haven't won a 5-yard league ever.
It's a bit nuts. I'll put it this way, that top scoring QB last year was Tom Brady, about 670 points. The QB 12 was scoring around about 300 points. So, but it's a 1 QB league. The rest of it's super flex. There's enhanced scoring everywhere, loads of bonuses. It's chaotic. The idea is it's pretty equal. There's a tight end premium. The rest of the positions all come in the line quite nicely. Nice. So it's about finding your value and doing your studying. But click the link, join the league, fill in the form, 3 preferences. We'll work to get as many people their first preference as possible. That's all I'm going to say on Listener Leagues. Let's talk tight ends. Excited for this. So let's talk about our favorite tight ends. Let's start with a positive here. Joe, you've got definitely a guy who I absolutely love, and I knew you were going to pick him.
Yeah, Joe got on the sheet before me, you see, and that's unusual when they're in America, because you release a sheet, and me and Murph normally fill it out and get our guys. I looked at it, I was like, okay, Joe's on there. I can't just repeat everything. So I've got the losers at the back of the list. So.
Sorry. I wanted to come up with it. It was good brain exercise for me this morning, and I was up early. So I was able to get it done. It's 2 guys who are both associated with the Eagles. One of them used to play for him. One of them still does. 2 guys who are different, though. Dallas Goddard, who's he's a yards per route run god. He's an efficiency god. He's a super athlete. He's a yak god. And Zach Ertz is kind of the opposite. He's not a yak guy at all. He's not a super athlete at all, but he's a PPR guy. Kyler Murray needs 6 yards on 3rd and 6. Zach Ertz is going to get you 6.5. That's what he is. DeAndre Hopkins is suspended. So it's really, what do you want? Do you want the big play upside, maybe the touchdown upside of Dallas Goddard, where he's probably going to get less volume because of the nature of the Eagles offense? Or do you want a guy who's almost certainly going to be the number 1 target or the 1A to Marquise Brown's 1B when DeAndre Hopkins is suspended and Zach Ertz? One of them tight end 8 by ADP, one of them tight end 9 by ADP. I like both of them. So this kind of goes against our guy Scott Barrett, who says either draft one of the big 3 or 4 or punt the position. I don't necessarily agree with that, because I'm kind of in on this middle tier of tight ends, and that includes Ertz and Goddard, who and they're not expensive. Like, I like Dalton Schultz, but he's getting pretty expensive. These guys, I think, can fit into any sort of build you have with your roster. That's why I like them.
Yeah, we're talking top of 7th round, really, round about pick 73. Dallas Goddard. Ertz even later, around about pick 90, so really cheap. And I've seen him going even lower in drafts.
People like Ertz, just for the lack of competition of targets there, especially with Hopkins out early in the season.
I'm very much in on Dallas Goddard. I've seen him slide significantly in drafts, and he is such a good price. If you can get him outside of the 7th round, I'm not a big fan of roster construction taking a tight end in that middle round. But if I can get Dallas Goddard in the 8th round, oh yeah, I'm punching that button pretty quickly, because I think he's an absolute steal in that range. Talking about a guy DVOA wise, best DVOA metrics for value per pass last season, ahead of Andrews. He's top 3 in a lot of categories as well last season. It's just a case of, and I know people are going to talk about the competition and the wide receiver depth, but at the end of the day, we know what Hurts can do, and we know his deficiencies, and we know his strengths. And getting the ball and releasing it to Goddard is something that's going to happen quite significantly. And I think he easily outperforms tight end 8 this year if he's healthy. That's the only question, is whether or not he's going to remain healthy. And Ertz, agree. I just think, Rondell Moore's not going to get that much work. The only thing with Ertz for me is just that playoff stretch. I think scheduling wise, it's not great. Plus, you're going to have all these guys back. I do get a bit concerned when I look at the fantasy playoffs. Do I really think that Ertz is going to give me significant? But you got to get there, and for the cost you're going to pay, and people always come up from the ranks, and you can pick and draft guys up mid-season and off waivers. So it's not really a massive problem, but it's just something I've got an eye on. Dan, who's your guy?
Well, I've gone for a guy we already mentioned in Dalton Schultz, coming off at tight end 6, round about pick 56, something like that, based on the ADP. Similar to Ertz, really early season target. There's such little target competition there. Lamb, Tolbert potentially, until Gallup comes back, and it remains to be seen how long that's going to be. Schultz had a career year last year, finished as tight end 3, and he done enough to blow the Blake Jarwin hype clean out the water and never to be seen again in the Cowboys jersey. So that's good enough for me to be in on Schultz, I think.
He might never be seen again in the NFL. He's still not been signed by anybody.
No, he's still injured, right? Is he? Or is he?
No, I don't know. He's like Thanos. He's like, hey, Dalton Schultz, gone.
Hey, NATO's signed Blake Jarwin jersey I'm still holding is losing value by the week then, sat in my wardrobe.
You only bought a raffle ticket for it. It wasn't that much. I've gone for Cole Kmet. So he's going off the board at tight end 13. Now we're talking about target opportunities, and we've mentioned how much there's little competition for Ertz, and there's not as much competition for Schultz. I mean, Cole Kmet is easily the second most talented receiver on his roster without trying. He literally will show up and get peppered with targets. The reason I like Cole Kmet, and people have come at me all offseason and said he's got one NFL touchdown. Yeah, absolutely. He had Matt Nagy.
So was Kyle Pitts. Don't stop him going second round, is it?
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, Matt Nagy, who we know was well in over his depth. And what he did last season with Justin Fields was nothing short of reckless and stupid. Cole Kmet is a huge positive touchdown regression candidate. My model has him bouncing, on his production, should have had at least 5 touchdowns last year. Justin Fields is going to get better. He's going to be used a lot in this scheme. Brian DeBall, and the coaching staff, they're going to not Brian DeBall, coaching staff, their new coaching staff, they're going to love him. They're going to pepper him with targets. He's a big guy. And you know what? We yet to see the best. And we always see these tight ends come out year 3, year 4, and they're going to really make it work. And I'm really excited to see what they do with Kmet in this scheme. And you got to remember, they haven't really invested in the wide receiver position. I talked about this last week. I do think they bring someone in. I don't know who it's going to be. I know they brought N'Keal Harry in for, a bag of peanuts they got from the plane and a conditional 7th round pick. But I do think they're going to get somebody else in. I can't see him going into the season with the oldest rookie we've ever seen in the NFL in Velus Jones. And I can't see him going in with N'Keal Harry. I think they're going to need to get someone else in from either who gets cut or free agency, or I don't know who. We mentioned Cole Beasley for me looks like someone who could get snapped up and can do a job there. So I think that will only help Cole Kmet even further. So yeah, I'm all in on Cole Kmet this year. I've been snapping up in a lot of drafts. He's a very, very good price. He fits my roster build. I'm a bit of the Scott Barrett. Go and get a guy early, but I really only like Kelsey early. Or go and get a couple of guys late and let them duke it out. And Kmet really fits into that mold for me. You can get him round about pick 128. So you're talking 11th round, which I just I
think that's great. He's probably their second best receiver right now.
Yeah, exactly that. He's second best receiver. I think he's going to do really well. We've had a question come in. So that he's not on the sheet, I don't think. Oh, he is. There we go. Nice segue to our least favorite. So Matthew Butler-Ross, how do you feel about my boy Waller will do this year? Bit of a bounce back, less attention on him. Love his receiving skills, but he could have a big season. But that might just be my Raider bias. Take it away, Joe.
Okay. First and foremost, Darren Waller has missed a lot of practice time this summer. So All right, how do I let you down easy here? Here's the thing with Darren Waller. I had a ton of Darren Waller last year, guys. You guys well know that last year, he came out and he had the 19 targets in week 1 and he had the 10 catches and the touchdown. And you're like, oh my God, he's going to break the tight end position. After that, he had one more game with 10 or more targets, one more game with 100 or more yards, and one more touchdown. He picked up multiple injuries. He finished just 3 times as a top 5 fantasy tight end last year. He was a bust last year. He's dealing with injuries in camp this year. They go out, and by the way, all of that was when they had one other reliable passing target. One. That being Hunter Renfrow. Now they have Devontae Adams as well. I know it's a different offense, but I can't do it. He is my least favorite tight end at ADP right now. I cannot do it. I know, Murph, you might not be a big TJ Hawkinson guy, but I'd rather wait 2 rounds and draft TJ Hawkinson than draft Waller. Can't do it.
Now that I will agree with you on. I would personally stay away from both. But yes, I'm with you. I can't take Waller. I wasn't in on him last year. I thought the price got too much. And I appreciate that monster season. The thing you got to remember with Darren Waller is he's been around a very long time. And it took a very long time to it took a long time for him to break out. And that's not indicative of, I mean, Cordell Patterson's exactly the same boat, right? I'm not saying that they can't do it again.
Right.
But it does question, why did it take so long to put it all together? And what was that magic ingredient? And you got to remember as well, John Gruden was someone who, he's a massive fan of the tight end position. He force-fed a lot of targets to Darren Waller because of the way that team panned out that particular season. We've got Josh McDaniel now, and we know Josh McDaniel was creative with tight ends. Don't be surprised if you see some Foster Moreau out there with Darren Waller this year, and you see these 2 tight end sets. But we know that other than maybe in the red zone, Darren Waller is not going to get the target volume anywhere near where he used to get. It's not going to happen. They traded for Devontae Adams. You still got a Pro Bowler in Hunter Renfrow there. They've got the best receiving core they've had probably since they last went to the Super Bowl. And on top of that, you've got this coaching staff that are going to do things very, very, very differently than what they have done before. And I think that just leaves Waller out in the cold. And now, I think if we were talking about Waller as one of these late round guys, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely take a flyer because he's done it before. But buying him at his near ceiling is just crazy. And the same goes for me with TJ Hawkinson. So I'm going to segue here. TJ Hawkinson for me is a guy who I almost think very similar. He comes with that first round pedigree, and I think everyone's a little bit blinded, which is weird because he came out the same draft and the same team as Noah Fant, and no one has that bias towards Noah Fant, who I personally still think is the better of the 2 tight ends from a talent perspective, but I digress. The problem you've got with TJ Hawkinson is this. With the way that Detroit are going to line up this season, they have a lot more quality in the skill positions than they did last season. Last season, they had no one, and TJ Hawkinson still wasn't. And I appreciate he was injured and he missed some time with games. But we know that TJ Hawkinson is not going to be a guy who's going to get 150 targets. It's not going to happen. And on the same token as that, he's not going to get those red zone opportunities. Detroit is still, for all the upgrades they've made in the skill positions, they are going to struggle to score. They're going to be behind in a lot of games. They're going to take shots down the field. This is what we've seen with Dan Campbell. He's almost like Bruce Arians too.
Which is why I put DJ Chark on the wide receiver sheet last week, and you didn't.
DJ Chark, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams when he's back. You're talking about these guys are going to be the guys that are going to get all of these targets. And I just don't. I think that he's going to be okay, TJ Hawkinson. I think he's going to get somewhere between 80, 90 targets. I think he's going to have an okay volume. I think he's going to be a low-end tight end 1. But I can't get in at taking a guy with 80, 90 targets as a low-end tight end 1 in the 6th round. I just
Hawkinson
can't.
Feels like a move-a-stick target. It feels like if you get in the league with points per first down, I think it might be worth it. When they're at 3rd and 4 and things like that, that's when I think that we're looking at Hawkinson just to keep him on the field.
But is TJ, and the thing you got to think about with the position here, right? So we've got this elite tier at the top, which no one's disputing. When you get into guys like TJ Hawkinson and Darren Waller, are these guys that much better than the Cole Kmets of this world and the Zach Ertzes and the Dallas Goddards? Are they really going to blow them out of the water? No, they're just not. They might get a handful of points more. They might get a handful of points less. They might even be significantly behind. But I can't see a world where they're going to outscore Goddard, Komet, and Ertz by 50 to 80 points. And that is what you're paying in capital, in drafts. Is you're paying for them to be that much better. And they're not going to be. That's why I can't invest. It's nothing on the player or the talent. It's just not going to be that much better than what you can get 7 rounds later. That's the bottom line. I think Pat's managed it with Gronk, fairly similar skill set players. When Gronk was really successful in fantasy football, he was like the only target on that Patriots team for a long time in Edelman. So, yeah, I think it's a very different ball game for that. But, yeah, thoughts on TJ Hawkinson? I know you like him more than Waller, Joe.
I mean, I like him at price more than Waller. He's just super talented, and I'm a little more positive about the Lions. But I can understand where you're saying, like, he's one of the guys who we mentioned Scott Barrett already. Go big or go home at the position. This is what I feel about like a TJ Hawkinson. Maybe he's one of those guys who you're like, all right, why would I take him when Cole Kmet, although he's not as gifted, could be available 5 rounds later? That's the way I feel about him. So I think your opinion is totally fair, quite frankly.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're saying. And I think I've talked about this for a few years, that I just, until there's a really exceptional need, and to be fair, Mark Andrews was this last season. Mark Andrews was that one guy in that middle tier at the tight end position in those rounds 5 through 6 that was well worth a bet. And it paid off big time. And as you say, Joe, you won a lot of money as a result.
Yeah, Mark Andrews was just so fantastic for me last year.
And I don't feel that these guys are anywhere near that level. And yes, we weren't predicting what Mark Andrews was going to do, but we knew Mark Andrews had top 3, top 4 tight end seasons because he'd done it before. I don't see that with Hawkinson. I don't see that. I know Waller did it previously, but I don't think he's got that in a different system anymore. I don't see it with quite a few guys in that range. And I'd rather get my QB and a wide receiver in that range than that. Who's your guy, Dan? Because he's a little bit later than the range. But
it is later, yeah. And even at ADP, I've gone with Pat Freiermuth over at Pittsburgh. I think the increase in targets and the way they're playing, real uncertainty at QB. I just expect him. He's one of those for me that falls top tier, next bracket. If I got to Freiermuth and I'm still looking for a tight end, I'm probably not going to bother. And I'm going to take someone else a little bit later that can still make that top 10 to 15 tight end range. Freiermuth's coming off the board at tight end 11. I think it's probably the highest he will finish. I think that's his ceiling. So I'll gamble down on someone else. And if I get 12 or 13 tight end a couple of rounds later, I'll be okay with that. So, yeah, for me, somebody I have next to nothing of going into this year.
Okay. I think that's fair. I'm probably a little higher than you on Freiermuth. I think in that range, I'm quite happy. If it depends. I mean, he's in that range with Mike Gesicki, Cole Kmet, and I'm quite happy in that range to take one of those guys over Freiermuth or with Freiermuth. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I think there's a lot of uncertainty there in terms of who is going to be the favorite target there.
One of those guys will come out that pack. They do every year. It's just if you get the right guy, right? And if you do, you've hit the money.
So speaking of guys we expect to maybe come out of a tier, let's look at guys we expect to outperform ADP. And there's a question in the chat, so maybe I'm going to kick this back to you, Dan, on thoughts on Gerald Everett.
He's the man. Gerald Everett is someone I've been banging on about for a while. I've got a lot of Gerald Everett. I just expect a big season for him now in LA. I like the talent. I like the set. Justin Herbert's there. Yeah, it's just tight. He's come off the board tight end 20, 182 picks. So at that level, the new setup he's got, I'm gambling. I know we've spoken before about Jared Cook didn't really deliver in the role last year and things like that. For me, Gerald Everett's a far better tight end there, and I'd expect him to do okay. So a tight end 20 coming off the board, I'll take that and hope he can finish up as a 10 to 12 tight end 1 in the roster.
Okay. You got another guy on your list, right?
I have. Someone that's, slipping through drafts. Logan Thomas. He actually come off the pup list today as well. So that seemed real apt that I put him on the sheet about 20 minutes before the news broke. So he was on for a top 10 tight end before going down and so on. And the year before, I think he did finish top 10 tight end. Wentz is there. There's not a lot else going on. They're going to be behind in games, similar to Cole Kmet. They're going to be behind in games. They're going to have to throw the ball regularly. There's not a great deal of options there in Washington. So if Thomas can get healthy and get on the field, he's going to be touching that tight end 1 bracket. And if you're taking him at tight end 26, I'd expect him to outperform that all day long.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think people were very scared about the injury with Logan Thomas. As you say, he's come off the PUP list today. I think his ADP shoots now. The fact that he's come off the PUP list, I think he's going to jump 50 spots in the next couple of weeks when we see an ADP update. I think that's huge news, and I think he's definitely one of the best of those sort of late round guys. Joe, you've got someone in this range who's
not a tight end.
He is a tight end.
So it's Taysom Hill, and the question I ask you is, how many guys at the tight end position who are basically going undrafted in drafts? Now he's like a tight end 3 if you're doing best ball. How many guys have a legitimate shot to start a game at quarterback this year?
Correct.
And maybe it's a 5% chance.
Even if he doesn't, how many of your tight ends on your rosters are going to get rushing touchdowns this year?
Yeah, his role is like, they can say all they want. Oh, he's a tight end now, and maybe he is. He's doing more of a focus. He's going to have the goal line gadget role, not all the time, but that's going to be part of what Taysom Hill does. So, I mean, laugh all you want, but there's definitely somebody listening to this podcast who's like, oh my God, I am dead at tight end. My tight end 1 got hurt. My backup's on bye. Screw it. I'm picking up Taysom Hill, and maybe he's going to fall into the end zone today. It's going to happen.
Tons of Taysom Hill in baseball myself. And again, I'll go with Scott Fishbowl, tight end 3, second to last round, I think. I'll stick that there. Winston goes down in the first couple of weeks of the season. I'm laughing.
Yeah, I think you definitely got to look at Taysom Hill and think, because he's going to do a bit of everything. It's just a consistency thing. I guess my only thing with having Taysom Hill on the roster is, do I ever feel like I can actually start him in a game? That's my only thing. But for the fact he's free, you never know. You might as well have him on your roster. You see what happens the first few weeks of the system. If he lines up in the Wildcat, he's going to be an absolute steal. And they will do that at some point. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting...
Yeah, he's one of those guys, if you've picked up a top tight end early, get him late, because you need him for 1 week. You need him on bye week, and that is all. And if you hit the jackpot on that week, and that's the week he has that rushing touchdown, that's a win.
Yeah, I do agree with you there. I think it is definitely something to be said there. The guy I'm looking at in sort of, I really expect to smash ADP is... I'm going to caveat this by saying that he might be one of the most boring fantasy players you can ever own. Okay? I am going to caveat this here and say I'm never excited to go into a draft and draft Tyler Higbee. I'm not. I don't go into a draft thinking, oh my God, I cannot wait to draft Tyler Higbee today. Absolutely not. He's going off the board at tight end 22. We're talking about guys to start tight end for the Rams. So you're talking about a guy on a great offense. I know he is actually remarkably consistent as well. It's just he is that little bit boring. He's not going to get a ton of touchdowns, which I guess you're looking for at the position. But if you need to put in a player for that sort of 1 week, 2 week flex play, who's going to get you 7 or 8 points just to get out of there and move on, I like Tyler Higbee there. I can't see a reason he's not going to outperform ADP at tight end 22, mainly because I just don't think there are 21 better tight ends in the NFL, and it's just no disrespect. I'm looking at some of the guys who outperformed him last year who aren't going to do that this year. CJ Uzomah, Tyler Conklin, they're not going to do it. Absolutely not. Gronk's retired. He might come back. He might not. I doubt that's going to happen. There's some guy, Jared Cook's, not got a team. So there's some guys here that he's just automatically going to jump up anyway. And he was still hovering around tight end 18 last season. And he missed a few games. If he plays 17 games, he's averaging about 7 or 8 points a game. And he's fairly consistent with that number. It's not exciting. I'm not saying you should go into it and give you like this amazing pick that's going to just really like change your life. You can draft Tyler Higbee and pretty much forget he's on your roster. But you know what? When you need him in a clutch just to get you those sort of 8 points at tight end, you'll be glad you got him.
Yeah.
Those really boring picks do end up winning you some weeks. And Tyler Higbee will do that. So he's my guy. I think he's going to... I'm not going to say he's going to smash ADP, but I do think he's going to greatly finish. And I think he'll be around that sort of tight end 14, tight end 15 conversation. So I do think he's going to be worth taking over some of these junk guys. I'm not sitting here projecting him to be the next, the next Darren Waller or George Kittle, but I do think there's some merit to just having a really safe floor play as your tight end 2 for your bye weeks. And that's what Tyler Higbee's going to give you. And you're pretty much getting him for free. Well, not almost free at this point. You're getting him in around about the last couple of rounds.
Yeah. About 15.
Yeah. So under the radar tight ends. And so we teased this earlier, Joe. So let's go to your guy, Isaiah Likely, who has been catching some heat in preseason. He is currently going off the board at tight end 50. I'm not even going to bother. Not for long. So what are your thoughts on him? And obviously we talk about what he's been doing, but what excites you about him?
So here's what excites me about Isaiah Likely. Who are the proven pass catchers on the Baltimore Ravens offense?
Rashad Bateman and
I don't even know if you can consider Rashad Bateman proven.
I wouldn't.
Oh no, come on.
No, he's going to be good. Murph, he's my most drafted player in all of fantasy. Okay, number 1, but he's not proven. But here's the thing: who is the receivers behind Bateman? Let's just say he is proven.
I really like Duvernay, to be honest. He's a wide receiver steal for me. I actually think he's significantly underrated. And I really like James Prochet, but I don't think that's going to work out well. No, and that. I mean, honestly, frankly, he can catch a ball.
Many will argue Likely can't run either. But look what they did. They spent two draft picks on tight ends this year. They did nothing at wide receiver. They had just signed DeMarcus Robinson, who couldn't stick with the Chiefs or the Raiders. I mean, don't get excited about DeMarcus Robinson. If there is a team in the NFL in the modern era that's going to run 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends as its base offense, you are looking at it. You're looking at it. Isaiah Likely is going to be a contributor on this team, and he is free in drafts. And all the rookie tight end caveats, that's fine. Yeah, I get it. But you could make an argument that he's going to be 3rd on this team in catches this year. I think you can make that an easy argument based on his preseason. I'm not telling you to go out and draft him in the 10th round. I'm just saying keep an eye on Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there with the way that they're set up there. And listen, you got to remember that the John Harbaugh and the Ravens aren't afraid to do something that nobody else does or go completely off grid. We saw what happened with Lamar Jackson and the way they run that offense a couple of years ago. So it absolutely would not shock me to see three tight ends on the field at any point. And I think you're right. I think you'll see a lot of personnel there where you'll see a lot of 2 sets, and I think he is going to make feature. But I don't think it starts quick. I think it's going to be one of those slow burns. But boy, by bye week season, you'd be pretty glad you got him on your roster if he's catching some balls.
For sure.
Dan, who's your guy?
You've got another rookie, right?
Yeah, so I've got Daniel Bellinger, right? Daniel Bellinger's coming off the board at tight end 33. I know he's been slightly underwhelming in preseason, but these are the guys he's got to beat out in camp. Ricky Seals-Jones, who's never held down a starting job. I can't remember the last time he got a starting job after being so incredible in college. We're talking about a tight end, Evan Ingram, who just can't stay fit. So, yeah, Daniel Bellinger's path to starting is pretty clear. He's literally got to just stay fit, and he's almost guaranteed to start. So you're talking about getting a tight end at the wide receiver 33, or at a tight end 33, who's going to pretty much be the starter because there isn't going to be anyone else. Yeah. He's almost nailed on. You're looking at a pass catching team that wide receiver core is pretty poor. I mean, I know we've got Golladay in there. You got Wan'Dale Robinson, who's going to be good in the slot. He's got a lot to
prove. Let's say that.
And then and people talk about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not a terrible quarterback. I know he's funny to rag on Daniel Jones, and I know that he's not this elite performer, but he's not bad at throwing the football. He can't protect it for anything, but he's not bad at throwing the football, and he will get the ball to guy. The biggest problem that Daniel Jones has had in the last 2 seasons is that every person on his offense goes down injured. He ends up throwing it to a bunch of Joes on the street. And so Daniel Bellinger's got some talent. He showed this at San Diego State. he's very creative in the way that he runs routes, and he is a bit of a surprise. The way that he plays the game, it's very difficult to scheme against because he will just go slightly off piece. And if he can get into a rhythm with Daniel Jones, he is going to catch fire and he's going to start. He's going to get games. And to be honest, with the way that Golladay played last season, if the same happens again, plus we know that with Brian DeBall, he likes targeting tight ends, especially in that red zone. If he gets himself big and he gets, lots of space there in that red zone, there's no reason he can't come away with 6-7 targets, 6-7 touchdowns next season. And he could be one of those guys that we talk about as a weekly streamer that could be just a red zone tight end or bust play, touchdown or bust play for the tight end position. And I think Bellinger there fits a lot of excitement for me. So I'm quite happy to buy him at cost, which is free. You can get him in the last round of drafts. He's going at pick 331 and definitely a best ball candidate, although I don't think many people are doing best balls now, but yeah.
Tom.
Dan, who are your guys that you're expecting sort of under the radar right now?
Quick note for Cam Brate. There's still this uncertainty around Gronk and what's going on. And I know we drafted Tampa 2 tight ends again in Co Cleveland and Cade Otton, but Cam Brate will lead that. He showed last year he's a reliable red zone target for Brady. At the minute, the job's his is a starting tight end coming off boards currently incredibly late at tight end 24. And the one I really like at the minute is Brevin Jordan down in Houston. Didn't play the first 7 weeks, came in, had a bit part role, but showed he could do it. He earned some trust. And he fits into I'm big on Nico Collins and you yourself, Murphy, you're big on Brandon Cooks and Davis Mills. And I just think a lot of that Texans offense, fantasy-wise, could have a sneaky good year. Being behind in game scripts. So Jordan's going to lead that field. I think he'll be okay. I don't think he'll outperform tight end 30 quite comfortably.
Are you not worried that he's going to get traded?
Who, Brevin Jordan?
Well, because he almost got traded and he failed the medical.
Yep.
So the fact that they were willing to deal him for not a lot and he failed the medical, that's a concern for me. Like, I get that he's back and he might stay. And if he's there, he's going to be part of that offense. But I can't help but feel that I can't see him in a Texans uniform come October. And then all bets are off where he goes.
I get that. I think they're going to have to put him in the shop window to some extent. So I think he'll start as a Texan. I can see him coming in for a side who loses someone. Let's say Logan Thomas comes back and goes down. That sort of situ would suit him. So I don't know. Either way, he should still outperform tight end 30 if he's on a field, no matter where it is for me. So and at that stage, I've got 2 tight ends on the roster already. So you're really looking for upside. I think he's got the ability. Situation's a different matter.
Nice. Okay, so we move over to not touching these guys at all costs. I'm going to go to Joe because I talked about Daniel Bellinger. One of his guys is directly related to that. So, Joe, take away tight ends you're not touching at all costs. We've lost your audio. You've muted.
Sorry, my dogs were barking, which is why I muted. And I totally forgot to unmute. Did you hear that, by the way?
No. Didn't hear anything.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I muted. This must be a pretty good noise-canceling microphone. Anyway, so the two tight ends that I am not touching at any cost, tight end 15, Noah Fant, who, A, number one, is playing with the worst quarterback situation in the NFL. B, is playing with the backups. He's playing into the fourth quarter, and I do not have good vibes on Noah Fant at all with Seattle. I think Will Dissly, they trust him more. And my other guy is Evan Ingram. Like, fool me once, fool me 47 times, shame on me. I mean, forget about Evan Ingram. I know everybody's like, oh, the Jaguars are going to run these multi-tight end sets. Well, here's the thing. Doug Peterson wants to be an 11 personnel guy. He just ran a lot of 12 personnel because the Eagles had Zach Ertz and Brent Selleck, and then they had Zach Ertz and Dallas Goddard. So he's like, well, I have to use these guys. They're expensive and they're good. I think what the Jaguars have done this offseason is shown you they want to be an 11 personnel team. Christian Kirk is going to be their slot receiver. So and by the way, Evan Ingram stinks. So let's not bury the lead. So no, I'm not touching Evan Ingram.
No, Evan Ingram has shown he had one season, his rookie season, he was great, and then ever since has continued to disappoint fantasy owners. And I think you're right. You know, you're not you can just see, as you say, with 11 personnel, because they're paying guys like Zay Jones 30 million over a few years to come in. Like, they have roles defined. And say what you want about Doug Pederson and the end of the time at the Eagles, he's a very smart and very well-established football coach who knows how to get the best out of the players that he's got. Don't forget, this guy was a backup in the NFL for years. So he knows how to manage players and player expectations. He's not bringing in, he's not going to, you say he's not going to bring in 12. I actually think that the better bet on that roster is the Titans that are already there. I think Evan Ingram's a guy you can just ignore. I think he's just not even worth picking up there. Dan Arnold, to me, is the guy I would own. And in fact, I think he's worth a very, very late dart, because I actually think he could thrive in that offense. Not to get, like, I'm not saying he's going to finish as a tight end 12, 15, but as a late tight end 2 guy, I think Dan Arnold has some weeks that he could be relevant. Yeah. I don't think it's Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram will get injured in like week 3 and disappear like he does most seasons. And Noah Fant, so why do you think that they traded for Noah Fant if you think that they're just going to keep Disley there? Do you think it was like, take a look at this guy, he's a former first-round pick, let's get what we can, maybe appease the fans and try and sell it as, hey, we got former first-round pick Noah Fant as part of this trade?
I thought that was entirely what it was. It was, hey, this guy's talented, let's see what he does. Oh, he's not having a good camp. Yeah, I think that's entirely what it is. And maybe he earns a role, but I'm not counting on it right now.
I just love Noah Fant, the player. Like, it annoys me that it has not happened for him in the NFL. Because
he's had flashes.
Yeah, the talent is supreme. If you look at what he did at Iowa, the talent is. For me, at the time he was drafted, I remember saying, I look stupid now. He was probably one of the, if not the best tight ends I've seen come out of college in years. And I genuinely believed that when he was drafted. And I thought, right, okay, going to Denver, they get a QB, that's going to really work out well for him. And now he's tied to the peripheral, to the arm of Drew Lock for eternity. Like they've been wedded in some sort of weird bridal shower and they're forever wedded in eternity, like until death do us part. That seems to be the score with those duo, and no one's happy with the the other one either. So that's a shame. I really like Noah Fant, and I wish it would work out for him. Dan, you had Ingram also, but you've got another player on there as well. Why are you fading Ingram? And I mean, it's pretty obvious, but anything to add? And then who's your other guy?
No, my other guy, it feels almost controversial. I'm trying to question myself as to why I literally have next to nothing of Dawson Knox. Situation fits, offense fits, high scoring, lots of throwing. It just, I don't know. It just feels like a good year last year. I'm expecting some touchdown regression. They brought in OJ Howard, who I am still a big fan of, and believe may take some red zone work, believe it or not. Everybody's on the Gabe Davis hype train coming out the slot there in Buffalo. So I don't know. It isn't the fact that I'm avoiding him at all costs. I just have found myself avoiding him at all costs. Does that make sense? I'm not sending him to drafts going, I am not getting this guy. I just haven't.
I'm with you 100%. I have some reasoning as to why I'm fading Knox. The first one is, Brian DeBall's gone, and that was a really appealing part of picking tight ends in that scheme because they were very good at getting scheming those guys open. The two things that have changed radically in that offense this year at the tight end position, one is Brian DeBall's gone, and they've got Ken Dorsey in. Now, Ken Dorsey's a first-time coordinator. He was there last season. He's been at the Bills, I think, a few years. He used to be the quarterback's coach, and I think he was involved in some of the scheming around passing plays with the ball, and it's an internal promotion there. But I always get concerned slightly when you get a first-time coordinator in the NFL because you always question, are they going to continue in the same offensive vein as their predecessor, or are they going to stamp their mark and do something different? And typically what these and again, this is just using collective experience, not pointing that this is going to happen. typically these offensive coordinators will try and do something a little bit different with the offense. I'm not saying they're going to radically they're just going to run the ball nonstop and forget about Josh Allen. That's not what I'm saying. I just think there's going to be some fundamental changes with the way that they approach the tight end position this year. Also, the fact they brought OJ Howard in. Now, I know OJ Howard has had lots of injuries. There's competition for targets that weren't there. Situationally, I'm just a little bit concerned of what could happen with Knox. And I think for the price you're paying, there's just other guys there that you can wait around. It's similar to the TJ Hawkinson argument. We've got nothing against the talent. There's a few question marks there. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I can get a similar guy 2 rounds later where I'm pretty confident where it's going to work out. I'll take the known quantity over in terms of what I know the situation I think is going to be versus it's just a bit too ambiguous there for me with Dawson Knox. So
I think a lot of it is, for me, is where they are. So my least favourite was Freeman for tight end 11, and my not touching is Knox at tight end 10. And I just think that's the way I draft. It's early or late, and they're both falling in that middle window where I'm going, I don't really get this. Do you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'll finish this off with the guys not touching. TJ Hawkinson, I've mentioned. It's just the value. If he was 5 rounds later, I'd pick him up. It's not a question of talent. It's just it doesn't work for me. The other one is sandwiched between a few guys we talk about is Mike Gesicki at tight end 12. Mm-hmm. Mike Gesicki is this guy who's an absolute athletic freak. He's an absolute freak. If you saw him at the combine when he came into the league, he had this amazing athletic profile that we just thought this guy's going to be an absolute stud. And just for whatever reason, he's just one of these under the radar guys. And I'm not saying he's a bad player at all, because he's always consistently around that sort of anywhere between tight end 8 and tight end 14. And he's a pretty boring pick. But at that range, I'm thinking, I'll go with Cole Kmet because I think he's going to shoot more. There's no ceiling in Mike Gesicki. There's no ceiling. If you're going to go for a guy late, I think you've got to get a guy who could shoot. And I'm talking about the Goddard, the Kmets. I think you've got to take a guy who potentially is going to be touching top 5 if it breaks right for them. I don't see a world where everything breaks right for Gesicki and he finishes above tight end 10 because he hasn't. And it's a new offense. It's Mike McDaniel. We know that they can scheme the tight ends, but I think there's so much going on with that offense. You've got Waddle, you've got Cedric Wilson. Again, similar to the argument we talked about with the Jags, going to line up in a lot of 11. We know they're going to get a lot of wide receiver plays, a lot of mouths to feed. The running backs are going to get theirs. I think Mike Gesicki is just going to get a little bit lost in all of this offense, and I think he's going to be fine, and he might return a tight end 12 finish. He probably will. But I just don't want to take a guy and go, that's all he can do. I'd rather take a guy and go, I'll go a round or 2 later, I'll get the Cole Kmet, or I'll go around earlier and I'll get Zach Ertz in that similar range, and I'll get a guy that's going to outperform and get me what I need from the position. If not, because if you're just going to draft a guy, when you're talking about the difference between tight end 12 and tight end 18, it's like 2 points a week. It's minimal. It's so negligible what the difference is at that position from that range that it's just not worth spending any capital on. Just pick a couple of guys up at the end of the draft. We've just given you half a dozen. Another one here that's been mentioned, Irv Smith. He's a guy that could break right. Take chances on those guys. Don't get the guys projected to be tight end 12 and he finishes tight end 11. It's just, you're not going to get a great deal of value out of that for what you pay at the position versus taking the guy who might finish at tight end 15 or might finish at tight end 6. Because tight end 15 is not a drop-off. Not really. Over the course of the season, it's 20, 30 points. It's just so negligible, it's not even worth mentioning. That's my thought.
Fair enough.
Anything to add?
Sounded good to me, Murph.
I feel like a really buried players without burying the talent. It's just the tight end position, and I think the reason why I think we're all just not overly enthusiastic about it as fantasy players is because they need to either think, and this is why tight end premium exists. It's because of the fact you need this scoring to make the position interesting, or you need to do something to make the position interesting because, quite frankly, you've got the guys at the top and then you've just got this tier of guys. And we're projecting guys who we think can do quite well or guys who we don't think are going to do quite well but ultimately they're going to be covered by about 70, 80 points.
Mm.
And if you get the right guy and he outperforms ADP, you'll probably add an extra win or two to the position. And if you don't, you'll probably lose a couple. But ultimately, this is why streaming the position completely is a viable strategy in fantasy football. You could literally get away with drafting 2 late guys who are practically free. And if it doesn't work, you go to the waiver wire and you match up stream every week. Because there's going to be guys, and if you hit that right enough, you'll stream the tight end 8 or 9 or 10. I mean, I've successfully drafted 3 top 7 finishes at the tight end position from guys who are under 30% owned. It's a position that you can get an advantage but you've got to pay for it. Or if you can identify these breakout guys like Logan Thomas, like George Kittle, like Dalton Schultz, and you can get in on these guys early. And there's always a guy on the waiver wire. Week 1, week 2, there's always a guy who goes on to have a decent season. Robert
We've mentioned some of them. Daniel Bellinger. These guys will be here.
Bellinger, Isaiah Likely, Gerald Everett. These are all guys that are all these potential guys that could break out. And do you know what? Even if we haven't, you keep listening to the content. You listen to guys like Joe. You listen to us, and we'll tell you when to get these guys because they will come up in the season. And you'll work it out. So I guess what we've decided is the tight end position. You can just ignore it. Just don't worry about it.
Nothing.
Well, I can see the argument on Andrews. I'm not going to do it, but I can get it. But
cool.
in terms of Joe, what are you thinking on the rest of the tight end position? Is there anyone else you want to talk about? Is there anyone else you want to cover? We have talked about a lot of tight ends here. We haven't mentioned Kittle. We haven't mentioned a couple of guys. Is there anyone else you want to mention?
Let's do a really boring one if you need one at the end of your draft who's probably going to catch passes, and that's probably going to be Austin Hooper. They have no receivers. Treylon Burks is struggling out of the gates. Nobody wants to be a Hooper scooper. Nobody wants to draft him. Nobody wants to use them. But don't be shocked if he catches 60 passes this year.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be 60 passes for 312 yards, but don't be shocked if he catches 60 passes. That's all I'm saying.
What about, and something that's not come up in the chat, but Albert O in terms of what's going on at Denver?
He played the entire game. Here's my question. If he's not their top tight end, who is? Dulcich hasn't practiced. He has a hamstring injury. I mean, they have Eric Saubert and Eric Tomlinson. I mean, and then of course Russ has very rarely been somebody who supports a great fantasy tight end. So yeah, I'm a little concerned there, man. I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, I do actually like Dulcich as a dynasty asset. I do actually think he's heavily talented. He was one of my favorite tight ends coming into this class, and I do feel like he could progress. And I think the fact that Albert O is not, as you say, he's playing games. Like I don't really know what's going on there. I mean, look, I took him. He was available in like the 13th round of some drafts, and I took him as a sprinkle because you think, let's see what happens. But I don't feel good about it. I don't look at him and get overly excited. I think
I'm not sure either of those tight ends is going to be great for fantasy this year. Dulcich meaning as well. I don't know about that. Yeah.
No, I think Dulcich could have some relevance toward like down the stretch, but yeah, he's not someone I'm putting on a roster right now, but he's someone I'm keeping an eye on. He's one of those guys I would star and just keep an eye on for the second half of the season because I think he's someone that will. I'm going to say this now. He will end up in a waiver wire column somewhere this season, Greg Dulcich. But it's just how late in the season that will happen. I'm just thinking if there's anyone else here that we should cover. I'm not going to do all the rookies. Hayden Hurst in Cincy. I just don't see him getting any work at all. Robert Tonyan, I know he's injured right now, but given the lack of passing options, he's going off the board at tight end 19, 175. He's going in between Smith Jr. and Gerald Everett. We sprinkling him a little bit.
He comes back healthy enough, early enough.
I keep an eye.
That's fine.
One more. Jonnu Smith. Any thoughts on Jonnu finally breaking out?
Good one. Yeah, I think there's here for Jonnu. I mean, this is a guy who's available 30 plus tight ends into your draft, right? I mean, I think there's an opportunity here for him.
So John Smith, current
Bottom,
ADP.
39.
Yeah, it's just going off the board. 39, pick 304. So, free at this point, as you say. It's got to be, I mean, everyone, I remember everyone being on the Johnny Smith hype train, and then he's just literally gone, oh, well, he's never had more than 500 yards in the regular season, so no one should touch him for dust. But yeah, it could happen with him with a new offensive coordinator. Again, when you're looking at late round tight ends or free tight ends, look at guys who have situations where they can only improve. New offensive coordinator in New England. We know how much Bill Belichick loves and targets tight ends. They pay Johnny Smith a lot of money to just do nothing basically right now. Mm-hmm. So I can't imagine that's going to continue to be the situation there. I think that's a situation that, as we say, could develop. Dan Arnold, I think, is one in Jacksonville. I think he's likely to beat out Evan Ingram for the job and keep that going forward. One to watch if you want a really sneaky play, and I wouldn't recommend this on a regular basis, but Derwin Smythe is one that I really like as a sprinkle play, like just very, very in a really deep, like 25, 30 round draft in the very last round. Because he's the red zone, or he was last season, whether this happens. And again, it's the last round. No one's touching him. No one's got him on the list anywhere. But I think the fact that he was catching, passes in the red zone last season, and he was getting touchdowns, and he was pretty much vulturing them from Mike Gesicki. If you're looking for just that that touchdown or bust play, one reception for 1 yard and a touchdown, that's still 6.1 fantasy points. That's still going to finish as a tight end 18 on the week. That's not going to kill you. And if it's a PPR, it's 7.1. Happy days. You're pretty much halfway home there. You got to remember, you're really only looking for like 8 points from a streaming tight end. So that will do you for a week and it won't kill you. So this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. Before we go, Joe, favorite Oasis song? If I give you a top 5, because I know Joe's a massive Oasis fan. He's a massive fan of British culture in general.
Ooh,
and we've been talking
5.
Oasis songs. I want to hear your favorite top 5 songs before we go.
Acquiesce, Slide Away, Supersonic, Stand By Me. That one is just so pompous. It is the pomposity of that song is just oh god, it absolutely kills me. Oh man. Let's see here. I really like Cast No Shadow.
Yeah. I love.
So I'm much more of an early Oasis fan. Who isn't? I know, Murph, that among the of the very let's say maligned 4th album, Standing on the Shoulder, singular, of Giants, you are a fan of Gas Panic, which is a great song.
I love Gas Panic. Gas Panic is one of the most underrated songs. I'm not going to say of all time. That's a bit harsh. But I think it's such an underrated song that there were some good songs on that album that people just forget because people got bored of Oasis at that point and they were churning out some stuff after Heaving Chemistry that was, well, no, it was before Heaving Chemistry. Heaving Chemistry was kind of like the rebirth of it. Gas Panic for me, great song. Absolutely love it to bits. Dan, do you have any Oasis song? What's your top 5 sort of Oasis songs?
Oh, top 5. Better Man, quite like.
Yeah.
She's Electric, good old school.
Oh, didn't think you were going to say that. Yeah, it's one of mine. I love She's Electric. That is my karaoke song.
Oh, I love it.
That's my karaoke song.
I'll film it, Joe. I'm out of Murph in a couple of weeks.
I'll bust it open all day long. Oh my god, I love She's Electric. That's just an absolute banger. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, there's so many in there. Live Forever is a good one, but yeah, you could keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I like Acquisitions. Married with Children.
Yeah,
it's just the simplicity of the song. I don't know why, but I absolutely love it. But yeah, definitely that's in there for me. Champagne Supernova. I know it's so chalky, but it's just every time I hear that song, I just go into this place that's just absolutely incredible and can just tune out the entire world. Same goes with Live Forever. I could listen to that every day for the rest of my life quite happily. And then this is where I struggle because it's like you've got one spot left and you're thinking,
It's
where
the
do you
last
go?
round. Pick the upside.
Yeah, of course. Like this one really completely depends on the day. Because I could pick something like Fading Out, which is on the Be Here Now album, which people would just be like, what? She Is Love. That's just because it's just like a simple little riff that just gets me going. Roll with it. It just takes me back to classic 90s pop mania and when I got into everything. I even think Back It Up off Dig Out Your Soul was a really good song. The rest of the album was garbage. But that was a really good song. Slide Away. I mean, look, I could go on. There's so many.
I totally forgot one, by the way.
Go on then.
Cigarettes and alcohol.
Oh, of course, yeah.
How did I forget that song? I mean, that's
we could be here all night talking about Oasis songs. I think some of our fans probably looking forward to going and watching United versus Liverpool if they haven't already dropped off. So appreciate everyone tuning in.
That's on now.
Yeah, that's on now.
United's down bad, huh?
Yeah, they're definitely struggling right now. Mind you, Liverpool haven't won a game this season, so we might have a winner out of these two, or it could end up as another draw. We'll find out. It's 0-0 after 13 minutes, so we'll see what happens. But Joe, as always, I just love having you on. I could talk to you forever and ever. Tell everyone where they can hit you up and get some more information on Fantasy Points or get a subscription, because you should absolutely be buying a subscription to Fantasy Points. It is an absolute goldmine resource, especially this time of year, and more especially if you're into your DFS plays as well. Someone mentioned the importance of being idle.
No, yeah, that one was on in my car yesterday. Anyway, at FG_Dolan on Twitter, use code lineup22 and you can get 10% off any package at fantasypoints.com. And okay, shout out to all right, let me see it. The Reds.
They're both the Reds.
Okay, all right. There, isn't it?
I guess I was wondering which one's the Reds, but Liverpool. Shout out to Liverpool.
No,
they need the W. They need the victory. The 3 points.
Let's have a draw. Everyone likes a draw.
Yeah, I'm a Newcastle guy, so
yeah, we'll see what happens.
Nice.
I know you're an Arsenal boy, Murph. They're off to a good start.
Yeah, I mean, we're 35 games away from winning the league. Wins. We need 35 more wins and we'll win the league.
Very good.
The schedule is, last season, it's interesting, right? Last season, everyone sort of loved to hate Arsenal, and, they had two teams in the top three, including the end-up champions, defending champions and eventual champions in there, and the European champions. And they played two of them. And then when they lost to Brentford, half the team was out with COVID. They were literally wiped out the day of the game. There was no time to practice with a 17, 18-year-old up front. So, the same way that I wasn't that worried that we'd started with 0 points last April, I'm not overly excited that we started with 9 points this season.
We are ending this pod as we started it, way off on the furthest tangent imaginable. Murph's on Arsenal now, and that's another 45 minutes you guys are going to have to listen to.
No, we're not. But we'll see what happens. But appreciate everyone tuning in. Please go check out Joe. Check out Fantasy Points. Joe, we'll get you back on. We'll talk some more pop culture. I feel like we can almost need like a pop culture pod here just to talk up. And I've been continuing to educate Joe in slang. And we've had some great fun with words that we're not going to share on this podcast because they're not entirely family friendly. But just go check out some of Joe's tweets about Christian Horner and the F1 Supremo. He's Joe's getting his English language degree from Liam Gallagher at the moment, so you can imagine how that's going.
My mother is not very happy with me. Let's put it that way.
Oh, apparently United have just scored. Thanks, Joe.
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
Who scored?
I don't know. It's
I just not loading.
I don't know. We'll find it. If this is like the ultimate jinx,
I'm so sorry.
Jadon
Sancho. If this is the ultimate jinx and Joe gets United a win, I'm gonna email the Glazers and say, hey, this guy needs to be paid by your organization.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I know. I figured you might want the job. But no, let's end the pod here. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Don't forget to sign up for listener leagues, and appreciate all of you for the support. And we look forward to bringing you another great show next week. Dan, anything you want to add? I noticed that the UKFFC account has been active this week. Tell everyone where to follow that, because there might be some
teasers. @_UKFFC. Keep your eyes posted. I don't want to give too much away, but tomorrow around about 4 p.m. would be a reasonable time, I think, to be on there. There's some big news coming for next year.
Oh, there you go. Big news on the UKFFC. That's the UK Fantasy Football Expo. And the last thing I'll say is the playbook is on sale. I tweeted this before the show. We've knocked £5.69 off the price. So quite a significant discount. It's yours on Amazon for £12.30. There's going to be a price discount on the website at some point as well. Don't know when that's going live. So if you want to buy your fantasy football playbook, you can do that on Amazon. Week 1 is 2 weeks away. It's almost time for the season. Get all the resources, subscribe to Fantasy Points, buy your fantasy football playbook. Keep tuning in and subscribing to the 5 Year Rush podcast. And don't forget, as always, keep rushing.